Hey everybody, Blu-ray here, and 2021, it's about to end, and it's been an interesting year. I mean, for me personally, it's been a, roller coaster ride, there's my up moments and there's my down moments, and it's just like that, back and forth. But that's my personal life. Definitely, I'd say it's at least a lot better than last year. I mean, last year was just way worse in my personal opinion, but this year at least there's some good to it, and some of the good stuff being video games. And there's a lot that came out this year in my personal opinion. And the ones that I completed so far, I really wanted to add to my top 5 list, but it's a top 5 list for a reason. And well, I wanted to kind of change up the rule and put it like at least a top 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. But I have to stick to my rule. It's only like 5 games that I could list that I personally enjoy this year. So it kind of sucks, but at least they're in the shout out category. So just a heads up, this is my personal list. Obviously it's going to be very different from a lot of people's opinion on what their favorite games are. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who have like a top 10 list for this year, top 5s, whatever the case it may be. But for me, it's just my own personal opinion, and just also it relates to the times that a certain time where I have actually completed the games. Like if I barely completed the game this month or so, or last month, or this month specifically, I can't really add it to my top 5 list right away because I just barely complete the game, and at the same time I had to make this video. So anyway, so don't feel bad for these shout out categories, because that doesn't mean they're bad games at all. They just weren't able to make it to my top 5 list personally, but these are games you should still check out nonetheless. So let's get on with this, shall we? So as I narrowed it down, I could have technically done a top 10 list, but like I said in the beginning of the video, I don't want to really change it up a bit. I guess you could say I don't really want to cause a lot of confusion, I guess you could say, if that makes any sense. But I've always been doing top 5 videos ever since I started this thing, or this particular video series. So I want to change it up. As much as these games deserve to be on my top 5 or my top tier list, or not necessarily top tier list, but in terms of like my most favorite games that I've enjoyed, unfortunately there's no way for me to squeeze them into my top 5 list. And yeah, it just sucks because they're really good games. But anyways, starting off with number 5 for the shout out category would be Hitman 3. This is the first Hitman game I ever played. Well, I did play Absolution, but I haven't completed it yet, or I don't even know how far I got into it. It was back on the PS3. Anyway, so with this game, it's just a whole lot of fun in terms of how you could kill your targets in all sorts of different ways, and it's just very satisfying, just to they could slip on a banana and that's how they die or something like that. It's just, there's so many things you can do in terms of how you kill your targets. It's not just like, just shoot them and that's it. There's like sorts of different ways to kill them and all that stuff. And, it makes, there is some funny moments in this game. I'm pretty sure if you look it up on YouTube, the montage videos and all that stuff, it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, so if you happen to see this game on sale, or I don't even know how much this game is now, maybe $30, maybe $20, but if you see it around those price, I say definitely pick it up. I can't really say much about if you're a huge Hitman fan or anything like that, if you enjoy this game, but if you never played a single Hitman game, I'd say give it a shot. It's a whole lot of fun. Number 4 on the shout-out category list would be Scarlet Nexus. I have yet to complete this game, but I remember playing the demo at first because I did have a friend on Instagram who posted this game, or not necessarily gameplay of it, but he basically posted on his Instagram a photo of his copy of the game, and in the description of the photo, he wrote that he's been enjoying the game and all that stuff. That basically the demo convinced him to purchase the game, and he even got the platinum trophy for this game. I never even heard about this game or even knew about this game at all until I saw that post on Instagram, and then I'm like, alright, let me try out the demo. I tried out the demo, I ended up enjoying it, and I ended up buying myself a copy of this game. So yeah, and then as soon as I started playing through it, I was really hooked on the gameplay. But other games came out, like specifically games that I was really looking forward to playing through, and I got distracted with those games. And yeah, it's just I've been meaning to get back into this game because this game is really good. If you're a huge fan of like action JRPG, you'll definitely love this game. Number 3 on the shout out category list would be Tormented Souls. Another game I haven't finished yet, or I played a little bit of it. I mean, I haven't even gotten far in this game. I basically only caught up to the part where the demo ended, and to make a long story short, in terms of how I found out about this game, I believe I randomly encountered it on Steam. Yeah, I randomly encountered it on Steam because on Steam they have a bunch of suggestions of games that might be similar to the games that you played or own or maybe enjoy. So yeah, I saw this game and I'm like, alright, this looks interesting. And I downloaded the demo, played the demo, and I really enjoyed it. And I even bought myself a copy of this game. And I don't think it's hard to find a physical copy of this game. I hope not. But so far, the PS5 version physical is available. The PS4, I believe Xbox One as well, and Switch will come out in February of 2022. I'm not too sure. I could be wrong on that. But digitally, if you just want to play it now, it's available only on PS5 and PC. But if you're a huge fan of like the old school Resident Evil games, Silent Hill games, with the tank controls and all that, you'll definitely love this game. It definitely has the fixed camera angle. Not necessarily tank controls in a way, because I feel like the controls for this game is a little bit smoother than compared to the old school Resident Evil games, or I feel like those controls don't really hold up that well in my personal opinion. But yeah, if you're a huge fan of the old school Resident Evil games, specifically like the fixed camera angles, you missed that shit and you want it back in survival horror games, definitely pick this game up. Number 2 on the shout out category list would be Demon Slayer Kimitsu no Yoba, the Hinokami Chronicles. I mean, I made a review for this, so it obviously makes sense for me to mention this game because, I really enjoyed this game. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna drag on way too much about this game and all that stuff because that's already been said in the review and all that stuff. So yeah, all I can say is, if you're a huge Demon Slayer fan of the anime and the manga, definitely pick this game up. And finally, for my number 1 on my shout out category would be Kana, Bridge of Spirits. So, when I saw this game, I believe it was on the PlayStation State of Play, if I remember correctly. I'm not too sure, but I remember seeing the trailer for this game and I was immediately like, it basically got my attention. Specifically with the art style and the graphics. It basically reminded me of a Disney Pixar film. That's how good it looked. I'm like, damn, I want to try this game. I want to play this game. So I believe the digital version of this game came out I want to say in October, I believe. I'm not too sure because I know the physical copy of this game came out in November 19th, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, so you know me, I like to have my games physical. But for a game like this, I wouldn't have mind buying the same game again. So, because I was willing to buy the game digitally and then buy it again, you know, physical. But it was around the time where I didn't have a job, so I couldn't, you know, buy all these brand new games that were coming out this year and all that stuff. Or like games I was like, I had pre-ordered and all that stuff, I wasn't able to get most of them because, you know, I had to focus on like rent and stuff. So yeah, so I wasn't able to buy the game digitally. Otherwise, I probably would have added this on my top 5 list instantly. But since I just played this game like late, late, barely just finished it. You know, I didn't really have enough time to like process and have time to think in terms of like if this is worthy on my list or not. I mean, I really do want to add this to my list, but I really had to think about it more. I mean, as the months passed by, like there's a point where Hitman 3 was going to be on my top 5 list, but you know, as months passed by, I was like, yeah, no, you know, this game's a lot better. I think it's more deserving on my list. But, yeah. So, I think if I had played this game, like, on launch day or whatever, I probably would have added to my top 5 list. But since I just barely completed the game, it's kind of already too late for me to add it. So, yeah. But, anyways, I've been talking a little bit, way too much about this game, when these little shout out categories lists should be a little bit short. But I just want to point out that this game is really good. And, you know, if you're a huge fan of like Disney and Pixar animations, you'll definitely love this game. And the gameplay is a lot of fun and I really enjoy the story. So yeah, definitely pick this game up. 5. Number 5 would have to go to Resident Evil Village. I pretty much said a lot about this game on my spoiler discussion video that's on my channel that I did with Sedition, so I'm not gonna really talk too much about this game since, you know, I already talked so much about it on that video. So if you want a full in-depth review, well, it's more of a spoiler discussion sort of review-ish. We just mainly talk about the things that we really liked about this game in that video, so go check that video out to get the full idea of why we really enjoyed this game. But yeah, honestly, this is like one of the best Resident Evil games that I played so far this year. I'd say probably better than Resident Evil 3 Remake that came out last year. It's just my personal opinion. Hell, there's even a level in this game that actually scared the crap out of me. It was to the point where, and it really never happened to me, especially when it comes to a Resident Evil game. Because there's like in 7 and some of the older Resident Evil games, there's some scary moments here and there, but it was never to the point where like I'm too scared to even want to continue to play. Even with spiders and bugs, which I really hate in real life, they creep me the hell out. Even them being in the older Resident Evil games didn't really affect my playthrough, but this game, without going to spoiler territory, there's a part where it kind of goes full on Silent Hill, or just like so weird. And it's basically to the point where you're defenseless. You don't have any weapons on you or anything like that. You just have to run and hide kind of thing. And that literally scared the crap out of me. It took me like maybe like the second day for me to go back and play this game or finish the game. So yeah, I was literally that scared that I didn't want to keep playing. Which is, like I said, it's really weird and it's never happened to me, especially when it comes to the Resident Evil games. So yeah, definitely enjoyed this game. I've even platinumed this game, or technically all the games that are on my top 5 list, I've platinumed. So yeah, but anyway, so Resident Evil Village is number 5. 4. Number 4 would have to go to Persona 5 Strikers. Now, I'm not really big into Warriors type games. The only ones that I've really enjoyed was One Piece Pirate Warriors and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Those games are really good, and of course this game. Hence as to why it's on my list. But with this game, doesn't really play like your traditional Warriors type game, and what I mean by that is, I mean, yes, you do fight a lot of enemies and all that stuff, but it's never like go to point A, secure B, take over C, or anything like that. This is more story focused, if that makes sense. You know, you got to go to this area, maybe get a key or something like that. Like just like do a bunch of different tasks to the point where you eventually fight the main boss of that specific area that you're in, which they call jail, which they explain as to why they call it jail in the game. But anyway, so this game takes place right after Persona 5, the original, not Persona 5 Royal. I know that people were probably upset / confused as to why Persona 5 Royal is never mentioned in this game. That's because, well, it's based off of the original Persona 5. So yeah. So if you never played a Persona game and you're actually were thinking about playing this game first, I recommend you don't do that, because there's a bunch of reference in terms of characters that are from the Persona 5 game that gets brought up into this game. So I highly recommend you play Persona 5 first before you play this game. Otherwise, when they mention the names, you're gonna be confused as to like who they are and all that stuff. So yeah. But anyways, Persona Fusions is in this game. Like basically, it kind of stays true to Persona 5 in terms of like how the personas are used and all that stuff. And surprisingly, there's a lot of personas in this game. I'm not quite too sure what's the total, but it's a lot. I mean, not a lot compared to Persona 5, because there's like a lot of personas in that game and all that stuff. But yeah, there's quite a few, or like I want to say like it's like maybe like 100 personas. I'm pretty sure the total numbers of personas that are in this game is probably wrong, but there's a lot. And you know, you can do persona fusions to create a new persona. It's just, I feel like the persona fusions in this game is a lot easier than the original Persona 5 in my personal opinion. But yeah, music is really good. There's some remix to the original songs from Persona 5, and along with some new ones. Though the remix, it's either hit or miss to some people. I personally enjoyed it. I know that my friend Fatboy, it's really not into some of the remixes in this game. So it really all depends on your taste in music. But for me, I'm like kind of like whatever, as long as it sounds good, I'll enjoy it. Unlike some of the rap music nowadays. Like, well, that's just my personal opinion. And anyways, so going way off topic. And story is really good. There's even moments in the game that's actually pretty sad. So yeah, so if you really loved Persona 5 and somehow you never heard about this game or slept on this game or were thinking about not even bothering to play this game, I highly recommend you pick this game up. Gameplay style is a little bit different from Persona 5, obviously, because in Persona 5 is a turn-based RPG, or JRPG. This one's more of a hack and slash, so if you don't mind a hack and slash, you know, pick this game up and you'll have a lot of fun with this game, I guarantee it. So yeah, Persona 5 Strikers is number 4. 3! Number 3 would have to go to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Man, this game literally surprised me on how good this game is. I mean, just seeing Square Enix kind of threw me up, because I remember when the trailer was first revealed and I saw the Square Enix logo. Yes, when I saw the Square Enix logo, I'm like, great, it's gonna be a shitty game, it looks pretty bad and all that stuff. But weirdly enough, Fatboy was actually pretty interested in this game. Which is, if he's interested in it, then that's saying a lot to me, because that means like there's potential that it might be a good game. Because he was all like, he mentioned gameplay, that the gameplay looks like pretty fun and all that stuff, that it basically reminded him of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I was like, alright, I'll take the bullet. I'm gonna, try this game out. And I got this game day one. Or I might have gotten it a couple days later after launch, I believe. I kind of forgot, but anyway, so yeah. I was very skeptical about this game because the last game from Square Enix, which was the Avengers game, was very disappointing. It's just, that game should have been single player only. They try to do this whole Destiny kind of style gameplay, which I didn't really like personally, but when I played through this game, holy shit, I'm like, god damn it, that's what Avengers should have been like to begin with, because this game is single player focused only. There's no like online or grinding, looting, or like all that kind of bullshit, microtransactions, all that annoying multiplayer crap that's basically in almost all multiplayer games nowadays, with all that kind of shit. But anyway, so yeah, gameplay is really fun. I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed the fact that you're just playing as Star-Lord and basically you command your teammates to do certain attacks and all that stuff, but when you play through the game, and this is just how I took the story, this game is more focused on Star-Lord than his teammates. I mean, granted, and with his teammates, they have their own kind of story and their own personal like issues and all that stuff that you had to deal with. But I feel like this is just more about Star-Lord and about his story and his past, all that kind of stuff, and what he's currently doing in the game. But yeah, so to me it makes sense as to why you're playing as Star-Lord, or why Star-Lord is the main character, and not really much of the Guardians. I mean, they are an important part of the game and the story and all that stuff, but it's just more, like I said, it's just more focused on Star-Lord. But anyways, I brought up story, which is really good. Like I said, this game really surprised me, and one of them is just the gameplay, the story, and the music. And honestly, like, in terms of humor as well, like, there's a lot of good humor in this game. And the characters are very likable. I mean, like, for me, because I've never really read much of the Guardians of the Galaxy comics, I more known them from the MCU films. I mean, Rocket Raccoon, I've known him since, because I remember he was introduced in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, so that's how I knew him. And then when Guardians of the Galaxy movie was announced, I saw Rocket, I'm like, oh, I recognize that character, but the other characters, I don't know who they are and all that stuff. But movie came out, the first two movies, really enjoyed. So I'd say if you're a huge fan of the MCU, you'll definitely love this game. Or if you're not so big into the James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films and you just prefer the comics, the characters in the comics over the movies, you'll also enjoy this game too. I feel like the characters' designs in this game is more, stays true to the comics design over the ones in the movie. Though you do have the option to use the MCU skins, or the ones used in the comics. So that's a pretty cool feature in the game, or neat thing that they added into the game in terms of like costumes and all that stuff. So yeah, gameplay pretty solid, music is really good, and story is fucking good. And honestly, I can't wait for the sequel, if there is one, which I really hope. And if Square Enix does plan on making more Marvel games, hopefully it's like this in terms of like single player only. Like I really hope they take notes from this game and understand why this game did really good compared to Avengers, which is still doing horrible to this point. Even not even the Spider-Man DLC could save that game. There's even a bunch of issues with that DLC, or that the swinging mechanics at Spider-Man not as fun compared to Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man. So yeah, if there's a sequel, definitely I would buy it immediately. That's a day one pre-order purchase for me. So yeah, if you remember seeing this trailer and were like, I'm gonna pass on this game and all that stuff, let me tell you, pick up this game. I know a lot of people pretty much slept on this game, but you'd be surprised on how good this game is. So definitely pick this game up. Number 2 would have to go to The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Now I know what most of you guys are thinking. You're more likely gonna be saying, well, that shouldn't count because the game came out in 2015 in Japan and all that kind of stuff. So for those who are thinking that or are about to say that, I have one word to say.
Objection!
Yes, I'm aware that the first game came out back in 2015. However, that's the first game. This is basically the Chronicles version, which has the first 2 Great Ace Attorney games. But anyway, so the first game came out on the 3DS, and then 2 years later a sequel came out, and they were available on the 3DS, and then eventually later it was released on iPhone and Android, I believe, but exclusively to Japan. It was never brought here to the West until this year. The only way you could have technically played the first 2 games is to download a ROM, and within that ROM there's like a translated text, so you don't have to read through the text in Japanese and all that stuff, because that's one way to do it. Or the other way is to buy a Japanese 3DS and a Japanese copy of the game and play the game, and make sure that make sure that you learn how to read and speak Japanese, and that would be like the only way to enjoy the game. But anyway, so yes, I'm aware that it came out in 2015 and all that stuff, but I don't want to hear it that I don't want to hear that excuse like, oh, this shouldn't be on your list because of that, or you could have easily downloaded a ROM and all that stuff, which I really didn't know that a ROM even existed for the game, and even if I did, I wouldn't have been able to figure it out, mainly because I didn't build my PC until last year when the whole pandemic hit. That's when I first built my PC, which was last year. So yeah, I'm not very good at tech stuff and all that stuff, so I'm not really that technical when it comes to like downloading games. I'm barely learning how to play PS2 games on my PC, but even then I'm not that good. Like, I don't know like the best settings for those games, so because there's been times where like I encounter like some audio issues and all that kind of stuff, and it just kind of ruins the moment when I play those games. So yeah, but anywho, so this is my list, so just deal with it. And plus, like I said, this was a game that I never thought was ever gonna come to the West. Mainly a lot of people thought this game was never gonna come to the West, and it finally did. I'll explain a little bit as to why. One of them being is the whole trademark, or like basically the whole Sherlock Holmes situation, trademark, copyright infringement, whatever. That would have been a pain in the ass to deal with if they brought it over to the West, specifically like in the UK and all that kind of stuff. So the best way that they had to make sure that it worked out smoothly is to swap out the names for Sherlock Holmes to Herlock Sholmes. And then the second one was there's racism involved with the game. specifically with the British people against the Japanese. Like in the trials for the game, like specifically in the third case or third episode of the first game, without going into too much details, but or spoil. Like I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but a person is a Japanese man is accused of murder, and the jury accuses him of being the victim, or not the victim, but he's a murderer because he looks shady and all that stuff, and specifically because he's Japanese, and they don't trust the Japanese or any foreigners because they look pretty suspicious and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, racism was kind of another thing as to why Capcom was kind of like hesitant on bringing the game to the West, because people would be all butthurt, because sadly that's what we live in nowadays, where people would get easily offended. Even though in reality the world is a really cruel place to live in, so it's not all sunshines and rainbows and all that stuff. But I'm going way off topic with that. But anyway, so yeah, those are like the two main reasons as to why the Capcom was kind of having a hard time bringing the game to the West. But they said fuck it, and they brought it here in the West. And of course, people, when the game came out, there was some people who were complaining about the racism and all that stuff, and it's just like, it's a video game, and plus you gotta think back how it was back. I mean, granted, this is not historically accurate, this is not based on a true story, but you gotta take into consideration that how racism was back then is very different how it is now. Like back then it's just like way worse. Like they judge people by the skin of the color, so if you're a different color than them, you're automatically a shady person, basically. So yeah, that's how it was back then. So it's just like, you gotta really think about that. And it's not like, and plus this is made by a Japanese game company or studio, Capcom. This is not made by an American game studio publisher or anything like that. So I don't really get why people are like why some people are so offended and all that stuff, like so shocked, like, oh my god, this game is totally racist against the Japanese, when Capcom is from Japan. So I don't know, that kind of just blows my mind. But once again, going way off topic, but I just wanted to point that out, so I apologize if I go way off topic on those two scenarios, and when I should be talking about the game. So here I am, going to be talking about the game now. I just wanted to get a lot of things off my chest, because I feel like it would have bugged me and people would have said some things, like specifically why this game's on my list, and then the criticism, or like the kind of whole issues as to why it was never brought to the West and all that stuff. But anyways, so let's talk about the game. And this is a pretty damn good one. Like when I was making my list, I was literally like, there's games here and there where I was like, okay, that's gonna be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it was kind of tough for me this year, because like, damn, this is really good and all that stuff. And then I really thought about it, so I want to say I'm more proud of my list this year, because I feel like, yeah, that deserves to be on the number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 category. But that doesn't mean that they're bad games just because one game's at number 5 or anything like that. But anyway, so yeah, this game is really good. I mean, if you're a huge fan of the Ace Attorney series and somehow aren't aware that this game exists, go pick it up. You'll definitely love it, I guarantee it, especially with some of the new gameplay mechanics in the game. So yeah, game is really good when it comes to story, characters, and music. The music especially is really good. At first, I was really not kind of feeling it, but then eventually, I eventually started to enjoy the music a lot more. So it's kind of a tough decision for me. Is like, which one do I like more? Do I like the Great Ace Attorney or the Ace Attorney trilogy's music? It's a very tough debate. Because I feel like in general, the Ace Attorney series, when it comes to the music, they're really good. So you know, if they ever announce a new one, I did remember seeing a survey from Capcom. I think one of the question was, would you want another Ace Attorney game? It was either, would you want another Ace Attorney game or another great Ace Attorney game? But either way, I'm completely on board with a new Ace Attorney game. If they ever decide to make a third one, I'll be super excited. You know, I'll definitely pick it up and play, because you can't go wrong with those games. They're like one of the best in the series. Very underrated. You know, it's not as popular as the Call of Duties, or in Capcom's eyes, it's not as popular as Resident Evil, Street Fighter, or Monster Hunter. Those 3 games are like their money makers right there, and this one is kind of somewhere around there. But you know, if you know, basically, this game wouldn't have gotten made if, you know, people didn't enjoy these games. So yeah, we have a bunch of the Ace Attorney series and all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in getting into the Ace Attorney series, like if you've never played a single Ace Attorney game, and you want to get into it and are trying to figure out which one you should play first, either the Ace Attorney trilogy or this one, I'd say it doesn't really matter, because they don't really connect with each other in a way, if that makes sense. Well, technically, the main character of this game, Ryunosuke Naruto, it's so weird to say the last name, because it almost sounds like you're basically trying to say Naruto, but you know, it's not. Ryunosuke, he's the great ancestor of Phoenix Wright, and basically in the Ace Attorney trilogy, and after that, you know, Ace Attorney 1 through 6, Ryunosuke is never brought up or mentioned or anything like that. So yeah, it doesn't really matter if you play this one or the Ace Attorney series first, because you know, they don't really connect with each other, even though he's like the ancestor of Phoenix Wright. And fun fact, in Japan, Phoenix Wright is not called Phoenix Wright. He's called something else. I forgot his first name, but he shares the same last name as Ryunosuke. So just a little fun fact there. It's just so interesting when it comes to the Phoenix Wright series, because when they brought it over here to the US, they literally had they had to change up a lot of the dialogues to make it like more basically where here in America people could relate to, you know. So like because most of the times they're just making reference in Japan, so you know, if they were to translate that here in the US, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't get it. They'll be like, what is this? Like, I can't really relate to the city. I'm not fully aware of the city and all that stuff. So they had to change up a lot of the dialogues to like American stuff, you know, like burgers. And I believe Phoenix Wright in the Ace Attorney series is from Los Angeles, I believe, if I remember correctly. But yeah, but anyways, so yeah, if you want to get into the series, doesn't matter, pick up this one or the Ace Attorney trilogy, which is available on all platforms, PC, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, mobile devices. Specifically, if you have a mobile device, you could play through the Ace Attorney 1 through 6 games on there. I believe it's still on Android and iPhone. I know for sure it's on Android, but I'm not too sure about iPhone. So you might want to check up on that. And when it comes to the Great Ace Attorney series, I'm not quite too sure if they brought in the game to mobile devices. I haven't really checked. Well, technically, I don't really play a lot of mobile games on my phone. I just in general don't play games on my phone. You know, I'm not one of those people who, you know, play these freemium games and all that kind of crap. So, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, you want to get into the series? It's available on all platforms. But like I said, it doesn't matter if you want to start off with this one or the Ace Attorney trilogy. But if you want to play through the first 6 games, you need to buy it through your phone, or if you happen to have your 3DS, you could definitely play it on there as well, because the first 6 games of the Ace Attorney the Ace Attorney series is on the 3DS. It's just not this one.
because it's only available in Japan, obviously. But yeah, so there's your options right there. But yeah, so game is really good in terms of story, characters, music, and especially the story. Like, I really love the story. Like, there's a lot of intense moments that happens, you know, towards like later on in the game, especially with the first two games. I think specifically the second one gets a little bit more intense than the first, in my personal opinion. But yeah, and it's just very interesting, like in terms of like some of the characters' backstory. You know, like, why does this specific character have such hatred towards the Japanese? Because there's this one specific character who just doesn't like Japanese people. So yeah, it's very interesting because you're like, okay, this guy is straight out a racist, but then you get into his backstory, like, oh, now I see why he doesn't like the Japanese and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but anyway, so that's pretty much all I have to say about this game. I practically dragged on this video a little bit too long just by talking about, you know, some random stuff in the beginning of this list, or part 2 of this list, or number 2 of this list. But yeah, so anyway, so yeah, definitely pick up this game, whether if you're a huge Ace Attorney fan or you want to get into the series. But, you know, I highly recommend you get this game, or yeah, get this game if you're a huge Ace Attorney fan, or if you want to get into the series, go for it. You know, like, you know, I really enjoy this game, but if you want to play the trilogy, that's also fine because they're great games, and I highly recommend you play those games. So yeah, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is number 2. 1. So here we are, the finale, number 1. And I'll try to make sure that with this one is I'm going to drag the video longer, or make this particular section long like the last one. But anyway, so yeah, originally Resident Evil Village and Persona 5 Strikers were originally gonna be number 1 on my list, or one of those two were like easily number 1 contenders for my list. Mainly because they were like the most 2 anticipated games I was looking forward to playing through this year. And then the other games, well, as you saw on my list so far, you know, there's games that those games came out this year and pretty much blew me away. But yeah, so anyways, this particular game is from a series that came out back in the PS2 era, which sadly I never owned a PlayStation 2. I mean, I do have one now because I bought it on eBay for like $40, I think. It's a PS2 Slim. It came with 2 controllers and 1 memory card. I think it was like an 8 megabyte or 16 megabytes, somewhere around there. I'm not quite too sure. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mainly grew up as a Nintendo person, or as a Nintendo kid. I mean, I did play some other consoles here and there, like the Dreamcast, Xbox, and 360. It was mainly Xbox because my mom was dating someone who had an Xbox. But anyways, kind of going way off topic. So yeah, but this particular game series is from a PS2. Came out back in the PS2 era, and you know, there was a bunch of sequels that came out for that consoles, and it eventually came out to the PS3, and then there's only one game that came out on the PS4, and then there's one that came out on the PS5. So I never played through any of those games at all. I played a little bit of it on PS4, but I never got around to finishing it. But anyways, I'm pretty sure you already know what game I'm talking about, I hope. If not, I'll just say it because I'm kind of dragging it a little bit too long. You guys are just waiting to see what's number 1 on my list, and I'll tell you right about now. And that is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game, words can't describe how I felt about this game. And this is like the first ever Ratchet and Clank game that I ever played from the series, and that I really enjoyed. Especially once I got the Platinum Trophy, like I legit felt a little empty inside. Like damn, that was a really good game. What do I do? Like, I literally had no desire to play any of my other games that need to be finished. That's how good this game was, and I never really felt that for a game in like years. I mean, I can't even think what was the last game that made me feel like that, you know? But yeah, this game is freaking amazing. Her graphics, just like it's so beautiful. 4K, 60 frames per second with ray tracing, because that was kind of an issue with Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS5, where if you wanted ray tracing, you would have to play it at 30 frames per second. And if you do play the game at 60, you don't have ray tracing. But eventually, Insomniac Games added in an update for that game and Spider-Man Remastered, where you could play the game with ray tracing at 60 frames. So yeah, but there's also another update as well for the 3 games on PS5, where you could play the game at up to 120 frames per second, but it'll be rendered at 1080p. It won't be rendered at 4K or anything like that. So 1080p, 120 frames per second. And yeah, it's just in general, it's cool to see Insomniac Games adding these kind of updates for their games. Especially with Ratchet and Clank on PS4, Ratchet and Clank 2016, they added an update for the PS5. Well, if you play the game on PS5, you could play it at 60 frames per second. If you just play it on PS4 or PS4 Pro, I believe it's stuck at 30 frames. But yeah, but anyway, so yeah, graphics, fucking amazing. The story is really good as well, and I really love the new character, Rivet. She's like honestly one of my favorites in the game. Like if they ever make a spin-off series featuring Rivet, I'd be totally on board with that. Like, I think she's a very cool character, very likable as well. And yeah, you know, and basically a female character done right. It's not like so forced. Last of Us Part 2, or any of that stuff. Like, honestly, Naughty Dog, take some fucking notes on Insomniac Games. Like, I feel like when it comes to their games now, those are like the only ones I can trust at the moment. Santa Monica Studios are like the only game developers that I can trust at the moment. I don't trust Naughty Dog anymore. Like, after Part 2, I just no more. But anyway, so yeah, I know I'm still here. I am in 2021 talking about Last of Us Part 2. I still can't get over it. But I'm sorry. It's just the story's really bad. But anyways, and you gotta admit, there's some moments where it did feel forced. Like, oh, like this character because she's a woman, or she's buff single woman that don't even know man, but she technically had sex with a man. Going way off topic, because we should be talking about this game, not that crappy game, that one game of the year. Fuck that game. But anyway, so yeah, characters really good, and gameplay is really addicting, and it's just so much fun. Like, words can't describe how I felt about this game. Like I said earlier, that I felt empty once I completed the game, or once I got the platinum trophy for this game. I just had no desire to play any other games, because the other games, I just felt like they weren't going to satisfy me like how this game did. And yeah, so if you happen to own a PS5 and haven't got around to playing through this game, or whatever the case it may be, or maybe because you're concerned that you need to play the other Ratchet and Clank games first in order to play this one, I will tell you this, as for somebody who's never played through any of the Ratchet and Clank games, you don't need to play those games to understand this game. I mean, like, Ratchet and Clank, you can already get the idea that they're buddies. I'm pretty sure it's like that in the first game. It's not like something like, oh, they just met or something like that. I could be wrong on that. because I know on the reboot 2016 Ratchet and Clank, it shows how Ratchet and Clank met. But I would have to play through the first game on PS3 or the HD version on PS3 to see the comparison of the first one and the reboot. But anyway, so yeah, don't worry about, having to play the older Ratchet and Clank games, because you don't have to understand the story. I don't think there's references from any of those games. Maybe there is. I mean, I'm not quite too sure. But if there is, they're just like, minor things. There's nothing too crazy or anything like that. So yeah, definitely pick this game up. I highly recommend it, honestly. If you are new to the series of Ratchet and Clank, I will definitely play the older Ratchet and Clank games, just to see like how they play and the story for those games and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is number 1. So that's the end of this video right here. Let me know in the comments down below if you managed to guess correctly on my list, and if not, let me know what your list was. Did you think that Resident Evil Village was going to be number 1, Persona 5 Strikers number 1, or number 2? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm very curious as to what your list is, if you got it right or not. And also, let me know what games you enjoy this year, whether it be a top 5 list, top 3, 2, 1, 10. Let me know in the comments down below as well, because I'm curious as to what your guys' favorite games for this year. So anyway, that's the end of the video right here. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to click on that like button and subscribe for more future videos to come. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.